It's not a coincidence that the 10-year anniversary of Brexit coincides with the 10-year anniversary of the UK Trade Policy Observatory. Since then, we've acted as a response unit to many additional challenges facing the international trading system.
If we thought trade policy was going to be a challenge for the UK 10 years ago, it's got even more challenging now.
Economic security, supply chain resilience, AI, geopolitics, energy transition, they're all parts of the puzzle today.
With Brexit, Britain basically took a leap into the dark, but with a world that was known, more or less. In 2026, Britain is terrified of leaping anywhere, but the world is almost totally unknown.
The UK built up a tremendous capacity in doing trade policy following the decision to leave the EU. Nevertheless, there are always improvements that could be made.
We can effectively use trade policy to address several of these challenges. Now, the question is whether we use these trade instruments and how we use them in the most optimal way to address questions of, say, coercion, or say, how do we use trade cooperation in the best way possible? This question that we see arises a lot in the context of critical minerals. So today, we see that there are a lot of dependencies, contingencies, choke points that hinder the ability of some countries to get access to things that they need, things like critical minerals. So in a sense, we are living through a time of rupture in trade cooperation, which means that there are going to be a lot of questions, a lot of discomfort, and a lot of experimentation with how we cooperate with countries and trading partners going forward.
We have to make sure we don't discriminate more against each other in trading terms. We particularly don't let Donald Trump drag us into his trade war with China, and that we establish cooperative mechanisms whether or not the US wants to play in them. One of the targets that he has at the moment is the UK and European Union carbon border adjustment mechanisms. And that, I think, is going to be a fight, but my guess is the odds are better than even that Europe and the UK will persist with this policy. Climate policy is sufficiently well set that it will carry on even despite Trump, but slower. We can get back on track. Now, on track isn't terribly good. We may well have to do more, but at least we will be able to keep going along the current lines.
There's scope for more coherence, greater clarity over what the priorities are, and also for targeted, effective support for businesses.
What we're seeing in Europe is that it is drawing what you might describe as stricter borders or boundaries in a number of respects, which is leading to a renewed strategic challenge for the UK of whether it's going to be inside or outside these borders from a trade and regulatory perspective. So this includes things like new Made in Europe rules, food and drink regulation, energy regulation, and defense procurement. Who decides whether we're going to align with EU regulations? How is that decided? And what does that mean for perceptions of democratic legitimacy and ownership over our EU regulations?